Number one, always feel the emotions, every single one of them. It isn't wrong. You're not stupid for how you feel ever. If anyone in your life tells you that you shouldn't feel that way or you're overreacting, maybe set some boundaries. And if they can't respect them, then that person's not for you. Look, the people that are meant to be in your life should do nothing but make you feel better, help you, support you, motivate you, be your biggest coach and cheerleader, not anything that brings you down. Hi everyone, Janna here. Hope you're all having a really great day and a great week. I want to talk today about controlling your emotions. Now you might think that this topic is just for us ladies, but it's not. It's for men as well. And it's really, really hard sometimes when the unexpected happens and you get really upset, and you're shocked and you're just, you're mad. And it's really, really hard to control your emotions sometimes. And it's definitely easier said than done for sure. So I just want to start off with that. And me saying that or talking about it doesn't make me perfect either. In fact, before I healed and shattered my limiting beliefs, um, I I acted off of my emotions. And look, I also want to just get rid of the label that being emotional um, is a bad thing. Being emotional, even highly emotional, sensitive, that means you're hard to deal with or high maintenance or um, not understanding. That's not what it means. It just means that you feel everything. You don't have any sort of numbness or barrier in between. Typically, you're super empathetic. And, for the longest time, I was told, mostly by guys, like, you're so emotional. And I took that label and I wore that label for like a really long time, right? And, then the comparison thing happens. And the thing is that looking back, I realized people only told me I was emotional or too sensitive when they had done something that wasn't super cool and super nice. And I reacted to it. And the right people in your life really shouldn't say that. It's okay to just be like, I know you're emotional and you feel everything, and that's okay. But make sure that person gives you reminders like, just before you react, before you make a decision, just feel your emotions. And that's what I want to talk to you about is that this is nothing about, when I say controlling your emotions, I don't mean like, don't feel it. Don't feel. You can only feel happiness and love and joy. You can't feel anger, sadness, or frustration. Absolutely not. In fact, I think there's too many people these days who think that they can't feel the uncomfortable, hard emotions that we don't want to feel. None of us want to get angry. None of us want to be sad. None of us want to be frustrated or feel confused or lost or just, fucked over. But it happens. It's part of life. But it is so unhealthy to push your feelings down and not deal with them because they got to be dealt with. So if you think by pushing them down and not addressing them is helping you, it's hurting you because you're just pushing it down. It's like a trash compactor. You just push it down and you push it down, but eventually it does fill up. But you compacted it all, and so it becomes hard, and then it's really hard to deal with. So, my thing before, I don't want to say my problem or my issue because it wasn't a problem or an issue. It was just something that I hadn't healed yet, things I needed to understand. Um, being taught through life's lessons that there are better ways to handle it, and the advantages to allowing yourself to feel everything before you do make a decision or you react. And so, I've always felt everything, and that used to bother me. Like, why am I so sensitive? But it only bothered me because I was told it wasn't okay, that you shouldn't be like that. you know? And I couldn't imagine not being empathetic and emotional. But I will tell you what, once I once I learned how to handle my emotions and control them, it was a huge game changer. And I realized that the decisions that I once made in an emotional state were hasty decisions, and 9 times out of 10, not the decision that I would have made when things calmed down and I just dealt with it for a little bit. And so it was after that happened so many times, it was like, I really got to start to take a step back and give myself some breathing room. Like, there's no rush to make a decision. And the more upset I was, the more emotional I was, the more the decision or the reaction was hard. That's when I knew, like, I really got to set with this one. And I now don't I now don't make any decisions until I know 100% it's the right one. And it's funny because something could happen or whatever, and it's like, aren't you going to do this? Aren't you going to say that? Aren't you blah blah? And I'm like, yeah, I am, but I'm not sure. And it's like, well, what do you mean? Like, you got to handle that. Like, what happened is not okay. And I'm like, you're right, it's not, but I need to handle it in the best way. Because sometimes you just get one time to handle something, right? And then the impact can last forever. So that's what I learned. And it was really, really hard for me because I'm a patient person in a lot of areas in my life, but I'm also impatient in a lot of ways. And that was really hard for me because I was so angry or sad or hurt. I couldn't even see myself reacting any different in that moment or making a different decision than I thought I would make. And it's like, oh, there's no way I'm ever going to think any different or do any different or say any different. Like, but I did. I always did. And the thing is that it made a huge impact on my life and the people in my life. But most importantly, it made a huge impact on my stress level and the emotional toll that things took on me. Look, when the hard times come, when the unexpected hurts and pains and you get blindsided and stuff like that, and loss, when things like that happen that are painful, it's always unexpected. It is, but the initial impact in itself is a lot, right? It's like, oh, you just had this something happen and it just affected you in such a deep way and just kind of changed your life. That in itself is enough of an impact. Let that be that. Because when you react hastily and off of emotion, then there's another impact that you also are going to feel and create that typically isn't beneficial for you or anyone. And that was probably the biggest lesson I learned. And so that's what I wanted to share with you today is number one, always feel the emotions, every single one of them. It isn't wrong. You're not stupid for how you feel ever. If anyone in your life tells you that you shouldn't feel that way or you're overreacting, maybe set some boundaries. And if they can't respect them, then that person's not for you. Look, the people that are meant to be in your life should do nothing but make you feel better, help you, support you, motivate you, be your biggest coach and cheerleader, not anything that brings you down. And I had too many people like that in my life for a really long time. And I don't put up with shit anymore. And I don't mean that in a way like, I don't put up with nothing. Yes, there's two ways of saying it, right? You can say I don't put up with shit, and that just means you're just giving your excuse to be an asshole or a bitch, right? I'm just meaning, like, I don't need to react to mediocrity and crap. If someone shows their true colors, I'm just like, that kind of sucks and disappointing, but at least now I know who they really are and their intentions, and I move on. And you can't have dead weight. We got enough burdens and shit we got to carry around through us day to day and through life. You don't need dead weight. So control your emotions. There's a couple, well, there's really just one way to do this. Number one, in my opinion, you have to feel everything that comes to you. And it doesn't mean one emotion. When I went through the most painful thing I've ever gone through in life. Not Lyme disease, I thought that was it, but divorce and being separated from my kids 50% of the time. That was a roller coaster of emotions for a long time, and it was the shock and then sadness and then grief and then anger, and then it was just like over and over. But I had to feel it all, and I didn't like it. And there was moments I just couldn't imagine being able to live my life like that. But I told myself I got to feel all of it. I got to feel it and go through this process, and it's the only way I can do it. Because in order to be the best mom I could be and needed to be for my kids, I couldn't harbor anything inside. I couldn't hold anything in, and I knew that they were hurting too, right? So I can't tell my kids they need to deal with their stuff and how to do it if I don't do it, and I'm not that role model, right? So number one, feel everything you feel. Don't put limits on that. Don't say, well, I can only be angry. Well, a lot of the times, like I said, it's more than one emotion. Feel all of it. Now, here is what I do. I do put a time limit on that. In other words, if something makes you really mad, someone hurts you and you're mad, you're angry, you're upset. If you don't say, I'm giving myself 24, 48 hours, 72 hours, then you end up more than likely getting stuck in that. And it becomes an invisible chain. It becomes a limiting belief, and it ends up affecting every area of your life until you heal from it. So what you put off today is there for you tomorrow. What you put off this year is there for you next year, 10 years down the road. So, just deal with it when it happens. Feel it. Feel the emotion. Give yourself the time, but then give yourself a time limit on it. And it's different. It's different for everything that happens in everyone. Sometimes I'm like, I'll give myself 24 hours. And then the next day I'm like, okay, well now this is how I feel. And so I need to feel this emotion, right? So give yourself a time limit on that. And then after that, that is when you have to turn it and make sure you don't stay in this victim mindset, because temporarily it's a victim mindset, right? It's an unexpected thing happened and it sucks and it hurts and whatever. But if you don't get the time limit, you're going to stay in that victim mindset. So after that, you got to turn it around and say, okay, I can't do anything about it. It sucks. I didn't cause it. I didn't create it, but I can control my emotions and I can change how I react. And you have to turn it and turn away from being the victim and get into a mindset of, what do I need to learn here? What can I do? And there's times, like, here's a really good example, right? Is I received an email the other day, really just chapped my ass. And I wanted to respond so bad. I was like, you know what? I have learned. And as bad as I want to, and as demanding as this person's being that I respond today, well, they're not my boss. So I waited. Well, day 2, still didn't know what to type. Still didn't feel like it. Day 3, it was like day 4 when finally I was like, okay, I feel inside. It's time for me to respond. And my response was perfect. And it was exactly what it needed to be. I was level-headed. I was clear. I wasn't attaching emotions to it. And most importantly, if I would have responded to that email when I got it and was in the heat of the moment, pissed off, it would have been nothing as professional and classy as what I did send. In fact, my initial response would have probably been what that person was after, right? Which was to piss me off and hurt me, right? So I won in 2 different ways. I won because I didn't make the impact any worse than it originally was. Number 2, I didn't give that person what they wanted. Number 3, they didn't steal any more of my joy and happiness. So that's just one of the many examples in my life, and that's a recent one, where controlling your emotions, my emotions, was the best decision. And I began doing this a few years back after I healed my mindset. And it was a game changer. And it was really, really hard the first few times. And it was almost like, you got to retrain my brain, right? That's not how I acted. But you change as a person when you heal your mindset and you shatter your limiting beliefs. So I was already kind of not like so reactive. It was just more about like how I reacted was different already because I was coming from it from a different mindset. But I still had the initial like reaction of like wanting to respond. And I'm telling you what, the best thing I ever did was to learn how to control my emotions and realize that no one is my boss. No one can tell me if I have to respond. No one can make me respond. No one can make me agree with them. I don't have to respond to every little thing in the email. I don't have to do one damn thing I don't want to do. So I'm giving you permission on that. I don't have to feel what someone thinks I should feel. You know, that really bothers people. I've had things happen in the last few years since I've had an unlimited mindset. And people are like, aren't you like mad? And they were mad. I wasn't mad. I was like, yeah, I mean, what they did was shitty, but like, honestly, like, what am I going to do about it? Let it affect my life? Like, that's on them. It sucks. I didn't deserve it, but like, ultimately, it's on them. And the best thing you can ever do is just move on. When people see you move on and they don't see you, you know, get in the mud with them, it pisses them off because that's what they wanted. They didn't want to be alone in their sadness and in their bullshit. So control your emotions. Give yourself time. It's like you're a sponge, and when something happens, you got to let it soak in, and you will feel inside when it's right. You'll know when it's time to respond. And don't think, well, it's been too long. It's been an hour. It's been a day. It's been this. It don't fucking matter. The only thing you need to put a time limit on is how long you're going to stay in that pit of emotional sadness. You got to put a time limit on that. But when you respond and how you do, that's up to you. Nobody else, no one can make you respond. If someone else needs something really bad and needs you to respond or call or email, that's what they need, but maybe not what you need. Maybe it's not what's best for you. So control your emotions. And when you do, you take off a lot of unnecessary stress and baggage out of your own life and weight that you don't need. So I hope this message helps you today. And if it did, please share. Sharing is caring. Share it with a friend who could also use this message. All right. Love you all. Thank you for tuning in.